bold action in your business and taking bold action in a way that consistently grows your business. What does that mean to you guys? If you don't mind putting it in the comments, I want to read some of your answers before I hop in and tell you what I want to say. So what does that mean for you guys to take bold action, the power of boldness in your business? What does that mean? Anybody have any ideas? Mueller. Getting out of your own way. Okay, so dig deeper a little bit on that, Barbara. What does that mean for you? Get specific for you. What are you doing that gets in your own way? What else? What else does the power of boldness mean to you guys? Taking bold action in your business. What does it mean? That's what you are all here to talk about today. So let's talk about it, right? Let's talk about what that really means, because you hear it all the time. Be bold in business. Be a bold business builder. Live boldly. Be bold, right? I mean, I say phrases like that, but what does it mean in a real, actionable, tangible way, right? Not just a concept, high-level thought kind of way. Fear, growth, impact, pride. Anybody else before I start hopping in? Picking up the phone. Okay, so there's something for Barbara, right? That's a tangible, practical thing. Pick up the phone instead of sending a text or email, right? Picking up the phone. So what I want you guys to realize about bold, before I can get into what it means, I want to talk about kind of the way society has set us up, okay? So our culture wants us to be stuck. And I really want you to see that, right? Like everything about our society wants to keep us kind of in a certain place, right? In a certain kind of mindset, in a certain way. And what I mean by that, okay, so it starts a long time ago, right? I mean, we got real estate agents here. I'm not knocking buying houses. I was a real estate attorney along with being a business attorney for 13 years, right? So and my husband works for Freddie Mac. Like we are a real estate friendly house, right? But when you think about why home ownership started, it was a marketing campaign, right? Companies and big lobby groups like all got together and said, how can we keep people stuck to working for us so they don't hop around to different jobs, right? And they came up with a marketing campaign of the American dream, and they put that out to get people excited about buying homes. But the underlying reason for it was to keep you stuck, to make it harder for you to hop around, to make it difficult for you to leave your company, right? In fact, when you really dig in, you'll see that a lot of people were often in debt to their companies back then. But that's a story for another day. But I mean, right? So even from that, right? That's something designed to keep us stuck. Businesses, right? Because businesses don't want turnover in their employees, right? And even now that's kind of changed. Like they're just getting rid of employees, right? They don't even care, right? They're just kind of getting rid of a whole level of employees. Retail industry, lobbyists, right? What do they want us to do? They want us to buy, right? They want to keep us buying, right? They don't, and the reason that keeps us stuck is that they want us to buy instead of make. Does that make sense to you guys before I go on? Like, do you see how kind of the commercial industry, the retail industry, real estate, corporate, like all of these like big buckets, right, in our culture and society, they're designed to kind of keep us stuck, right? Watching TV, the media, right? The media and news and all of this, right? It's designed to kind of keep us at a certain level. Does that make sense to everybody before I move on? Do you guys have any questions about that? And that becomes important, right? That becomes, so I'm looking down just in case this is frozen, right? That becomes important. And I want to tell you why, right? Why it becomes important is because passive entertainment, right? Passive entertainment, whether that's buying things or watching movies or watching TV or whatever, it's all designed to keep us from making our own entertainment, right? They don't want us to make our own entertainment. They want us to buy the entertainment that's already out there, right? They don't want us to make our own things. They want to keep us buying, right, what they're putting out there, what these big businesses and big industries are putting out there, right? So the lesson, the fundamental lesson that we're being taught is that happiness comes from buying more. Happiness comes from getting more. Happiness comes from acquiring more, right? Do you guys see that? Like, and it comes from consuming more. We need to consume more. We need to ingest more, right? Whether consumption is through reading or watching or whatever, right? So that's kind of like the big idea that's floating around there. This is going to become really important, right? That happiness means more consumption, okay? But what this means is that when we're in that mode, when we're in that consumption mode, it restricts our opportunity to express ourselves, right? We're now not expressing ourselves in an inventive or a creative or a satisfying way, right? So all of this kind of like consumption, the idea of consumption, whether it's reading, consuming, whatever, right? Watching, all of that stuff, right? It is the passive kind of activities and buying, and not flexing our creative muscles to create and invent, right? What that does is it stops us from being able to express ourselves in a creative or in a bold way, right? It keeps us from then tapping into our truth, into who we really are, into our essence. And do you guys know why that's important? When we're talking about business and we're talking about being bold in business, do you guys know why that's important? I don't see any comments, so I could just talk about this all day, guys, right? Is this interesting to you guys? I see people leaving. Maybe people are getting scared. Maybe just a thought about being bold in business is scary, right? But I think it's really important. The reason that that's important is that if creativity is what helps us tap into our truth, right? And success is directly tied with making things, with making and producing things and tying into our truth, right? Then what happens is that action is essential for our success, but not just any action. It's pushing our limits, because when we push our limits, we have to check in with ourselves. We have to check in with what we like, what we don't like, what we want, what we're doing, what we're not doing. It forces us to be true to ourselves. It forces us to do a check-in, right? If we're kind of comfortable and passive, we're not doing that active check-in, right? We're just kind of doing without thinking, right? Have you been in autopilot mode before, right? Doing without thinking. And so what happens here, right, is that in order to be bold, right, what that really means is that we need to think, we need to speak, and we need to act in alignment with our core values, which is what Elaine was talking about earlier, right? So we need to know what we ultimately want out of our life and how we want to do it and what's important to us. And then we need to make sure that our mindset, our language, and our actions are completely at all times in alignment with that, which is why when Elaine said, oh my gosh, the minute I started taking actions that were brave, I started getting rewarded, right? And that's because she is brave. That is a core value, to act brave and to be brave. So at times that she's not doing that, she's not going to realize results because she's acting out of alignment with a core value, right? So your truth happens when your thoughts, your mindset, your language, what's coming out of your mouth, right, and your actions is a key part, are all in alignment with this truth. But the only way we can really get to our truth is by being uncomfortable. Do you guys see that? By pushing ourselves outside of our limits. That's the only way we can get to our truth, right? And we have to get to our truth to be able to make sure our mindset and our language and our actions are in alignment with that truth. So that's where success rolls in. That's where success is rooted, right? Is in that authenticity, is in that truth. And so therefore, we have to push ourselves. We have to take bold action, right? So when you think about being bold and being bold in business, right? And what does that really mean? It means pushing yourself, pushing the limits of what you can do. So you have to identify your truth and then make sure that your thoughts and your language and your actions are completely in alignment with that truth, right? But when you're thinking about what actions to take to be bold, right now I gave like actions that were outside people's comfort zones. But for some people, the actions I gave were not, right? Some of them you said you guys were doing already anyway during the challenge, right? So what I think being bold is, right, is knowing your truth, which comes from taking actions that push you outside of your comfort zone. But the actions have to be rooted in two things: in service and in using your strengths, right? Action that uses your strengths, whatever your individual strengths are. So actions that use your strengths and actions that are contributing to making the world better in some way, that's being bold, right? So now we're kind of getting to the root of what being bold in business really means, right? Being bold and taking bold action in your business means pushing yourself every day outside of your comfort zone, so you consistently have to discover your truth so you can be authentic in your business, right? But once you know that truth, you have to align everything with it: your thoughts, your language, and your actions. But your actions then need to be aligned in a way that uses your strengths and somehow contributes to the betterment of the world in some capacity, right? It has to be rooted in service. So living bold, to be bold, to live bold, to live boldly, to be bold in business, right, is pushing yourself. At the end of the day, pushing yourself, but for the reasons that we talked about. So you can identify your strengths and apply them in a way that is of service to people, to the world, to the community, to something like that, right? And making sure your mindset and your language are in alignment with those actions that are true, right, to your strengths. Does that make sense, right? Do you guys get that? You guys are being really, really quiet. You guys are being really, really quiet, right? And somebody said fear. I think it was Angie, right? Said fear, that being bold kind of hashtag fear, right? Being bold isn't the fear. Being bold is in working through the fear, right? So you will feel fear when you are pushing yourself, right? But here's why action becomes so important. You cannot think yourself through fear. It's simply impossible. You can't just think and then cure fear, right? It's not like, oh, I'm really scared of heights. I'm just going to think for a long, long time about being up really, 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 really high. And I'm going to visualize myself being really, really, really high, like high up in the air, guys. High up in the air, right? I'm going to visualize myself being way, way up in the air, heights, 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 right? And now I'm over it, right? No, I can only work through the fear by doing it, by taking action. That's it, right? That's it. I can't get unstuck. I can't get past the fear unless I'm actually doing the thing, right? So it's not enough to have a thought that scares you. It's not enough to have a thought that like pushes you outside of your comfort zone, right? You have to then do it. And only by doing it and taking the action, right, is all of this going to fall into alignment, right? Oh, Barbara says, oh, good, love this, and learn better by doing, right? Yeah, I mean, it's the only way. You can only truly learn something by doing it, right? You can learn it a little bit, but you don't truly learn it until you do it, right? It's kind of like why I had a call with a client today who was getting kind of hung up on the whole ideal client target market. And that's something we're definitely talking about in my new program, right? We're talking about target market and ideal client and all of that, and learning that through action. But that was the key thing, right? I said to her, you have to stop thinking about it. The only way you're going to know who your target market is, and the only way you're going to know who your ideal client is by getting clients, is by working with different people. You can have an idea, you could have a starting off point to help with some marketing and some networking and to test it and to vet it. But the only way you're ever going to know is by doing it. The only way you're ever going to know all of these things that we're talking about to build your business is by doing it. But here's the problem with a lot of programs. Here's the problem with a lot of what's out there. And I have created programs like this. And I have taken programs like this, and I know they're sexy and I know they're good, right? But that's because our brain has been trained to want to consume. So we'll take programs that are passive, that we just watch a series of videos, right? We'll hop onto a group coaching call and we'll be passive. We'll hop onto a Facebook Live like this and we'll just watch. We won't participate, right? But that's all very passive. That's all that passive stuff that we talked about that stops you from being able to express yourself, right? And when you're not expressing yourself in an inventive and in a satisfying way, right, then that keeps you from tapping into your truth, into your true essence, right? So these programs, right, that teach, they're very valuable. You're learning valuable lessons, and I'm not saying that they're not helpful, but that missing component is the action. And a lot of times they're not structured in a way where it's easy to take action, where it's easy for you to focus and take an action and realize the results and be able to tweak it and play around with it and make sure that your mindset and your language and everything all at the same time is in alignment with the action. You're either taking action without aligning it with mindset, or you're doing mindset work but you're not taking any action, or you're watching a really long class and then you want to take action but then the week goes by and you can't take action, right? So bold action, right? This bold action is actively making something happen. Okay, so we've talked about what is being bold in business, what is bold action, and we now know that it's pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone, doing actions that are outside of your comfort zone, but not just any action, right? Actions that are letting you identify your strengths and actions that are helping you serve other people, right? And when you do that, you start tapping into your truth. And when you tap into your truth, you start noticing what you like, don't like, what your values are, and you can then kind of recalibrate and align your thoughts and your language and your actions with that the values, right? Your truth. So that's bold. All of that's bold action. But it's also being very active in making something happen, in participating in something, right? Or in producing something. So a lot of people are in classes, or a lot of people were on this Facebook Live and they're being very passive. That's not a bold action. A bold action is commenting. A bold action is putting your thoughts down, is interacting with me, is asking questions, is answering some of the things out loud in front of others. It's being active in your participation, right? So it's actively producing something, actively creating something, actively participating in something, actively expressing yourself in something instead of passively taking it in. Okay, so that's important for you guys to know about bold action. Bold action is active. It is not passive. Okay. So interacting with others in a meaningful way. Somebody said the importance of community, right? Interacting with others in a meaningful way is a bold action, right? Problem solving is a bold action, right? Meditating, because that is active. You actively have to be doing things to meditate, can then be a bold action. So what I want you to see is a bold action doesn't have to be a big, scary, I'm going to trapeze school type of action, right? A bold action can be small. A bold action can be anything, so long as it pushes you outside of your comfort zone, right? And so long as it's active and not passive. And that can be a million different things. They don't have to be these big, huge, like, I'm going to get on stage and sing and I hate singing, right? It doesn't have to be that. It just has to push you slightly outside of your comfort zone so that you can tap in to learning all about you and align all the things, right? It has to be from a place of service, right? Where the whole point is to then make something better for other people. And the last part of taking bold action is it just has to be active. It can't be passive, right? So interacting with other people and being present and fully present for that interaction, participating on Facebook Lives, commenting, being in a course like my new course, right? The Take Bold Action, Get Big Results group coaching course. I'm making that interactive, community-driven, and active action-driven, right? That's what bold action is. And there's actually a loop, guys. There's like this circle. The more we consume, right? The more we consume something, then the less we want to act, okay? Because there's so many different ways that we can act. There's so much information out there, and then our brain like wants more. But what if that's not the best way? What if there's another way? What if there's a faster way? What if there's an easier way? What if there's another way, right? So your brain, so the more that we consume, the less that we act. And guess what, guys? The less that we act, the more we want to consume, because now we're not doing anything. And we're like, oh my gosh, I really need to get into action. I really need to be doing something more. I need to be doing things bigger. I need to be getting bigger results. I need to be doing all of this stuff. So now I need to read all about all the fastest, easiest, best ways to make this happen, because now I really want it to happen, and I want it to happen quickly, right? So that's what happens. That's the loop, right? The more we consume, the less we act. The less we act, the more we want to consume. Do you see the circle that keeps you stuck, right? Believe it or not, that has led to depression in people. Overconsumption of information leads to, in some cases, not in every case, sometimes it's just a blah feeling, right? And other times it can be real depression. And that's because you're stuck, right? You're just stuck in a loop. You're not doing. And when you're not doing, when you're stuck in consuming, and now you know why you get stuck in that loop, right? When you're stuck in that loop, what happens then, right, is you're being passive. You're not being active, right? And that keeps you from being inventive and creative and making. And when you're not, you're more likely to then go out and purchase all this stuff, right, to do it for you. And you're not being creative. And when you're not being creative and you're not making and you're not doing, you're not able to tap into your authentic self and your authentic truth. And that's where that concept of flow comes from, right? We hear flow, right? Like, oh, I don't want to hustle. I just want flow, right? Well, guess what, guys? For flow, you have to have things flowing out in order for them to flow in. I've got to flow action out if I want results to come in. Right? Consumption keeps that flow from happening, right? If you're just reading and reading and reading and thinking and thinking, and you just have to do it, right? So action is where flow comes from. Action is where self-efficacy comes from. Action is where all of the success comes from, okay? That's what being bold is. Being bold is, and being bold in business is taking action that is slightly outside of your comfort zone, right? Just slightly. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to, it's just what's outside of the comfort zone for you, and it needs to be active so that then you can identify everything that's going on inside of you and align your thoughts and your language and future actions with your values, using your strengths in ways that help serve others, right? In ways that bring goodness into the world. That is what living bold means. That is what being bold in your business is, right? And the important part of that is you have to be committed to doing it every single day, right? You have to be committed to doing it one step at a time, because like I said, it just has to be the very next step for you that makes you feel slightly uncomfortable, right? One step at a time and every single day. And that's how you do it, right? Does that make sense for you guys? So I'm looking, right? And Elaine said, bam, bam, right? What questions do you guys have, right? That's what I wanted you to see about what it means to live bold, to be a bold business owner, and why it's so important that you find ways to take these actions, right? And what I see from a lot of people, my camera is getting a little, I'm moving around so much, my camera can't stay focused on me because I'm so excited about this, guys. But do you see that, right? Like what I see happening with a lot of people is that they start to consume, right? And then they say, but I'm taking action. I'm taking daily action in my business. I'm doing all of these things, but I don't see the results coming in that I want, right? And it's because they're not doing the right things. You can take a lot of action and not be taking the right action, right, in your business. And so that's why I created the Take Bold Action and Get Big Results group coaching program. I created that to keep people in action, to get you out of consumption, right? You're going to consume just enough to take the action, and you're going to learn by taking the action so that you do start the flow. You're going to flow things out so they flow in, and you're going to have a community to support you. You're going to have me, you're going to have an accountability partner, you're going to have all of the other participants, right? So that you can be active in your learning. Everything is geared towards serving others, and we are definitely going throughout the program to make sure you're aligning every single thing we do with your values, with your strengths, so that your mindset, your language, and your actions are all in alignment, allowing you to take these bold actions in stronger ways, right? And somebody asked me, that program right now is $497. There are 5 people enrolled. The first 10 people to enroll in that program get private coaching with me. Right? So there are 5 slots left for that as well. So there's a payment plan. There are all kinds of things. You can go check that out. I'll put the link in the comments, right? The cart closes on that on Saturday, I think is the day, because it starts on Monday. And it's going to be great. I'm not lying. The program is going to be great. So if you've been worried about taking action, if you miss a challenge and you really wish you could be taking daily action, if you want to be building your business daily, and now that the challenge is over, you're worried you're going to fall back in bad habits, if you just want to really get your business growing in this fun, easy way that lets you live bold and be bold in the way I said, you're definitely going to want to check out that program, okay? Maria, hi! Action always builds confidence. Action always does, right? But often, and we're going to talk, so the rest of the week, we're talking about different topics, right? So tomorrow we are talking about, oh my goodness, now I'm going to forget the topics. I know that on Wednesday we're talking, tomorrow we're talking about how do you trust your decisions? How do you take decisive action? Right? So you can live bold, but you better be able to do it decisively, right? So we're going to talk about taking decisive actions tomorrow, and then ways that you can do that you can put that into action. On Wednesday, we're talking about what does it mean to be different in your business. You hear that all the time. People don't buy things, they buy you. You need to be different. What differentiates you from other people doing what you do? We're going to talk all about that on Wednesday. On Thursday, we're talking about moving through fear to take action. And on Friday, we're talking about 2 missing ingredients that people often neglect that keep them from doing all of the things that we've talked about, that we will have talked about by then. But from taking bold action, from being decisive, from being different and differentiating themselves, and moving through fear. We're going to talk about what the 2 missing ingredients are on Friday. And then on Saturday, I'm doing open question and answer on anything we've talked about all week, or anything in your business at all, right? It's like, come to the office and ask me your business questions, and I want to help you, right? So who has questions about what we talked about? What are your thoughts about this concept of living bold, right? Live bold. Be a bold business owner, now that we've talked about what that means. Now that we've talked about what being bold and taking bold action really means. What are some of your thoughts? Barbara, yeah. Barbara, you should really, I'm saying this honestly because I saw you really go all out in the program, and we've talked before. I think you should check out my new group coaching program. I really do. I think you're going to be really excited about it. And these trainings this week, even if you don't participate in it, yes, they're going to be, I'm so excited about my Facebook Live extravaganza. Oh, Barbara, so you beat me to it thinking I should take the new course. I think you would love it. There's some really great women who were here, or who might still be here in this video, who are in it, and some others who have joined and are joining. It's going to be fun. And there's going to be a high level of access to me, right? So in addition to every week having office hours with me, there are also going to be networking happy hours. But in addition to the office hours, I am going to be in that group every single day, right? You're going to get the lessons and you're going to get the actions, but I'm reviewing every single one. I'm going to be interacting with every single person. And if you sign up, right, as one of the next 5, Barbara, you're going to get private coaching with me. So, the private coaching, 1 hour with me is what somebody would pay is what the whole program costs. So, I just wanted, can you not tell this is me living bold. We're going to talk about that later this week, about why this program for me is living bold, right? Remember I said push outside of the comfort zone and be in alignment with your so we're going to talk about all of that later in the week. But anyway, what questions do you guys have about applying this in your business. Remember, living bold is being active and not passive. And being bold means participating in conversations when you're watching them, right? That's bold action. Something as simple as that. If nobody has anything, then I will hop off because I do have a client call from 5 to 6 and a client call from 6 to 7. But I wanted to make sure that I address, right? Are you guys excited about any of the other topics coming up? What else are you guys excited about this week? All of them? Is there one that's jumping out to you? Do you want to take more bold action in your business? Do you find that sometimes you get really passive in the activities and the actions that you're taking in your business? Tell me a little bit about that. Put some comments up about that. I'm picking up my phone in case the comments up here froze. So anybody want to say anything? I feel like that teacher, Bueller. Oh, Barbara, I hope you feel better, and thank you for joining, even though you're sick. Thank you. That's outside your comfort zone. So thank you, but please take care of you. Self-care, right? You can only run your business if you're healthy. So take care of you. Who else? Anybody else want to say anything else at all? Going once. Or I'll just dance. I'll just dance for you. Dance for you. Elaine, I find that when I have a deadline, I turn into Superwoman. So Elaine, let's make sure that you turn into Superwoman even when you don't have a deadline, right? Or let's give you deadlines all the time, which is also something I do, right? And I think that's going to be very helpful. Yes. Angie says, need consistency and excitement, energizing growth. Angie, you should check out my program, girlfriend. But even not, just be here every day. Be here every day. Get the energy, get the excitement, get the buzz going on with what we're talking about here every day this week, right? Keep those actions, a checklist. I gave you guys a checklist so that you could stay in action with the actions, right? Even after the challenge is done. That helps keep you consistent. That helps you think about it every single day, right? And some of the other things we're going to talk about all week can be a nice little package, right? But one more thing, and promise this will be the last time I talk about my new program on this video, is that I made it purposely happen for March, April, and May. It's a 3-month program, right? So 3 months for $497 is great, especially with access to me. But I'm just saying, I did it for 3 months for a reason, because by the time the program ends, we're halfway through the year. Halfway. Can you believe that, guys? I mean, I cannot believe February is like over, right? But we will be halfway through the year. And my whole point is, wouldn't you rather have taken consistent daily action on your business for 3 months and be somewhere amazing by the time June rolls around, instead of having June hit and go, man, half the year has passed and I can't believe I haven't gotten done what I want to get done, right? I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of programs that are teaching. I was guilty of this, of throwing a lot of information out and not allocating much time for the important part, which is the action part, guys. So Maria, the program doesn't meet. That's the joy of the program. So yes and no. It does. So it's just in a Facebook group, right? You guys are going to get like a little, I don't really want to call it a workbook, but you guys are going to get little lessons, like 3 lessons throughout the week. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, through a video or through a workbook or something, you're going to get a little lesson. And then very short lesson. Then on Tuesdays and Thursdays and the weekend, you'll be taking an action from the lesson you read the day before. So maybe Monday you read 2 pages about scheduling. And then on Tuesday, you're going to create like a draft schedule. I'm making all of this up. Tuesday, you're going to create like a little draft schedule. And then Wednesday, you're going to read something and you'll do something Thursday. And then Friday, you'll read something and then you'll have the weekend to do it. And you post your answers, what you've done, you post it all into the Facebook group. So we can all give feedback and I can give feedback. In addition, you're going to have an accountability partner. So on your own, you can set up ongoing calls or meetings with your accountability partner. Every week, there are also going to be office hours with me. The times and days are going to change a little bit. We're going to take some polls in the group once the members are finalized, where you can come and ask any questions of me. You can also ask questions in the group at any time. I'm going to be all up in that group. There's going to be a monthly big group networking kind of happy hour, right? So you can really hear how other people are accelerating their business as well. And there are going to be some other fun features in the group. But that was the whole point, right? Is I didn't want there to be like Monday at 7 o'clock every week we have to meet and we meet for an hour, right? That's not in the spirit of the way that I run my business and the way I'm teaching people to run theirs, which is just short, quick lessons, action, fun, easy, but big results, right? Big results can happen when you do that. So that's why the program's going. And Maria, just so you know, there are still 5 spots in the first 10. And they qualify, the first 10 people that register qualify for private coaching from me, an hour, and I don't just mean like some BS kind of hour like some coaches give. Like, this is like hands-on. I want you to, like, I really want to do an onboarding so I can help you create your visibility and networking plans, things like that, throughout the whole program. So in fact, right now, I'm going to type the URL to the program. And other than that, guys, like, be back here tomorrow. So tomorrow is not 4. Tomorrow's 4:15. I have a client call from 4 to 4:15. That sounds weird, right? Like a 15-minute client call. I actually have a client who likes to use their coaching time in short spurts, just like that. Take an action every day, talk to me about it. Take an action, talk to me about it. Take an action, and stay in action, right? I'm so excited about that. So anyway, I have that call, so it'll be 4:15 tomorrow that we meet, and we're going to talk, like I said, all about tapping into your intuition, knowing how to make a decision, being decisive, being a decisive action taker. What does that mean, and how does that help you be bold, live bold in your business? Okay, so are there any questions? I'm gonna, Maria and Barbara, I'm putting the URL of the program, and for anybody else who wants to check it out, right there. Anything else? I hope I see you guys tomorrow. I'm really excited. Wednesday is going to be a great topic too, about differentiating yourself and how do you differentiate yourself in a crowded marketplace. So tell everybody, yeah, that's it. Okay, I'm going to shut up now. Tuesday through Friday, shorter Facebook Lives. Today was 2 topics in one and a lot of explanation about what's going on. So shorter, probably half an hour every day, Tuesday through Friday, with open office hours on Saturday. Okay? You're welcome, Maria. All right, guys, take care. Have a great day. Start, live bold. That's my new phrase, live bold. You'll see that a lot, live bold. And tell me how you're doing it. Keep it going. Keep those actions going. Print out the checklist. # Rita made me do everything that you want me to see so I know. And have a great day. I'll talk to you all tomorrow. Take care. Bye.